why has Mr. Todd gone out and this trouble of traveling all over to get these interviews and then have them part of the library collection? Well, it kind of goes back to the role of oral history interviews themselves. So, the interviews are a grassroots approach to documenting the history of either an individual who reflects on a particular event, place, or even a community or a certain time in their life. And these consisted of, veterans recounting their time in the war. So these interviews they augment that historical narrative, and the interviews provide an opportunity to kind of look into what people were thinking and their experiences as to how and why they became involved in the war effort. And so they kind of can complement that grand historical narrative. Plus, these were a chance for these men and women to tell their stories. So they may have told them to their friends and family members over the years, and this was now a chance for their stories to become historical record. And in fact, interviews themselves can be the record itself. You're actually recording and creating that history right there. So, and then those interviews can be used for future researchers on down the line. So this is the main audiovisual office in the Eisenhower Library. In fact, this is my workstation back here, and these are the other two archivists. That's right there. The second portion of this internship covered the Army unit records, particularly their photographs. And so, as I just mentioned earlier, the Army unit records were documentations of particular military units' activities, and the photographs were the portions that I covered. So, these pictures were taken by members of the Army Signal Corps. They moved around from each division, and they were documenting their activities, whether it was, whether they're actually engaged in a firefight at that time, or anything from their daily activities. They were cleaning guns, they were writing letters to home, they were reading, or a soldier typing up letters at a headquarters, or men working as radio operators. And actually, one of my favorite ones is two pictures of two GIs frying donuts in a German hunting lodge. Actually, right before the Battle of the Bulge, if you look at the date on the back, it's dated December 12th, 1944, which is just a couple of days before the Battle of the Bulge. So, the units that I went through of their photographs were the ones listed here. The 161st was actually a Pacific regiment at the time. They were serving on Guadalcanal. The 378th, the 9th Infantry, or the Checkered Corps Division. Combat Engineers, the 146th. And then the 83rd Infantry, which is also known as the Ohio Division. And of course, the 5th and 4th Armored. So those were, the armored pictures were really intriguing because it was not only showing just their activities in the field, they also had a large collection of photographs from their training days. And so there's pictures of these men conducting tank exercises, and for some they didn't have enough tanks, so there's pictures of large trucks that have the words tank written on them, and they're using those as their practice in the early days. So, and the accessioning, describing, and cataloging process is similar. They're assigned pre-existing call numbers as part of the larger collection. And the description process consists of the physical and content description. The physical description is, what about the photograph, itself? Well, it's 8 by 10, black and white. It has a 1/4-inch white border around it. It has writing on the back side that says this. There's blue on the back of it, or there's a tear up here. And in the content description, which actually describes what is going on in the photo. So, for example, you have that, there are two U.S. soldiers in a motor pool. One is using a wrench, another one is airing up a flat tire on a truck. And that would be the description of the photo. So, and these were already existing photographs in the collection which haven't just been processed yet. And in total, there are around probably over close to 1,000 photographs that I went through during my internship. So it was a fairly large collection. There was never a dull moment looking at these photographs either. So, and of course, the word card that I had every day had different materials on it, and the one important aspect I learned, or even before I started working at the Eisenhower Library, one important aspect of archive that I learned was you really have no idea what you're going to get to work on that day. So you may work on a set of photographs one day, and the next day you may get a cardboard box that has a porcelain tea set with a teddy bear in it. You have no idea what's going to be donated to the library. So as I mentioned, then once you get these materials, then you realize, well, what are we going to do with these? Well, in the case of the Eisenhower Library and Museum, you would just write a description of what's received, and then they go off to their appropriate area. So since a lot of these were physical artifacts, after writing a short description, they went over to the museum. And so actually in the upper left, in the purple box, was a set of army boots and gaiters. Of course, well, these obviously don't belong in the audiovisual archives. They go over to the museum, but they're given a descriptive list, so that way they know what they're receiving. So other ones consisted of personal letters, other photographs, personal photo albums, books that were properties of the veterans that they're donating back to the library. So, and one other really interesting aspects, ones I never expected, were here at the bottom, it's bottom picture, pillow shams. And these pillow shams are probably something you'd see at maybe your grandma has some, or your grandparents have them at their old house somewhere. Pillow shams was kind of these small fabric covers that go over your pillow, similar to like a quilt or a bedspread in your bedroom. And but these had a special World War II connection, because these were souvenirs that a soldier could send home from their training days. And say a soldier went to Fort Riley for training, and they could order one of these pillow shams to send home as kind of a souvenir for their families. And I'll share a bit of a picture of it. But this top one is a pillow sham from Fort Riley, and it has the state of Kansas outlined on it with the first U.S. Army Infantry, first U.S. Army Infantry Division badge on top of it. And of course, then a little poem to whoever we were sending to, whether it was your mom or your sweetheart or your sister or your aunt. Typically it'd be, probably, or your wife. And then there's some messages on there. And I just thought it was kind of interesting. It was a way to soldiers maintain their connection from home by saying to them, "Oh, have a pillow sham." So there's probably around 100 of those. That kind of covers the main duties of the internship. As far as the official work, the extra work consisted of assisting with community activities or educational workshops. And the one I definitely want to talk about today was the D-Day anniversary. Because this year, as you might know, it's the 70th anniversary of D-Day, and being the strong connection that the Eisenhower Library has with World War II, they put on a weekend-long anniversary event. And this consisted of, first to start off with a remembrance memorial ceremony honoring all World War II veterans. There were guided exhibit tours, gallery talks. They had panels where you could ask World War II veterans any questions you wanted. There were World War II reenactors there. They had World War II vehicles. They actually had a C-47 flyover at the end of the second day. And of course they had other community activities as well. They had things that kids could do and interact and learn about World War II history. And then my role during this event was photographing the entire full day event on June 6th. I wasn't able to make it on June 7th, but went around taking photographs and being just kind of a helper in a way. So if anyone had questions, I could help answer them. I passed out brochures, and there was a tremendous response, high level of attendance at this event. There were people from all over the nation there, and even some people internationally. There was one gentleman from Reginald Colonel from Britain, a group from Germany, another group from Poland, who were actually members of were actually from the Polish consulate, because at the same time, the Eisenhower Library was sponsoring a traveling exhibit of Holocaust materials. So they were there representing and giving that tour of the Holocaust stuff. And then, of course, actually there was a documentary film crew from Japan who was actually making a documentary about Eisenhower at the time. And they were going around filming everything and asking the directors and archivists and other library employees about Eisenhower. So it's really interesting to see just pretty much the international draw that events like this really has. And so, but I do have some of the smaller pictures today, my personal pictures that I can share with you. This is a gentleman from the World War II Research Center, a small group based out of El Dorado, Kansas, and they have sponsoring a lot of World War II workshops, and they have reenactors, and he's demonstrating how to load the really popular rifle, the M1 Garand rifle. He's showing how it worked, how to load it, and of course later on in the day, the reenactors with the research center gave a weapons demonstration. Firing blanks, of course. I mean, they're on public grounds. They don't want to actually hurt anybody. So, but they were demonstrating how these weapons worked in the line of fire. The remembrance ceremony, the first thing opened up of the day. These two men out here in front, they're from Fort Riley, and they're wearing recreated World War II uniforms that are symbolizing the first U.S. Army Infantry Division. And so they, of course, I was speaking with them, and they asked me what it was like wearing these uniforms, and they said, well, we can't wait to change out of them. These things are super hot. So yeah, they did everything they could to maintain a really authentic view of what these uniforms would look like. And of course, during the ceremony, the director, Carl Weisenbach, he's giving his remarks at the beginning of the ceremony. Another troop of reenactors. These men, also from Fort Riley, they were part of a traveling World War II history group that takes World War II vehicles and they take them to schools or other historical sites, and they kind of explain everything about what they do and the importance of whatever vehicle they have with them that day. This means another gentleman from Fort Riley, who was a Eisenhower reenactor. And during the remembrance ceremony, he's invited to recite the entire Eisenhower's D-Day speech, the famous speech where he says, "You're about to embark upon the great campaign to which we have striven these many months, the great crusade we have striven these many months." He recites the entire thing from memory. And of course, he's also wearing the same clothes that Eisenhower would have worn during the time. And I was asking him some questions about how he prepared for the role, and he said, "Well, I just got a hold of every single book about Eisenhower I ever could, and I watched videos about him, and when they asked me to do this, it was kind of last minute notice, so I just had to immerse myself in being Eisenhower for a solid week." So, but that was a really great addition to the ceremony. And of course, here are some more reenactors next to a armored half-track, and of course, during these, I thought that you could just see them. You actually found out later you can go through them, and so I got to sit in the driver's seat and be on top of some of these tanks, and with some guidance, of course. And these men were extremely knowledgeable about every intricacy you could think of regarding these vehicles. They knew everything down to